Give everyone a chance. Welcome, Delegate Rob Down.
I had a chance to meet with all of you at some other event, but thanks for having me back. I have Thomas Jefferson's seat in the General Assembly. I represent Albemarle County, and it's just an incredible honor. And the reason we all love Mr. Jefferson is not because he toppled the king, because that had happened many times before. The difference was that when he got done, he didn't put a new king in his place. And so the reason he's a hero for Tea Party groups is that it was his idea, along with Madison and Washington and the rest, to come up with a constitution of limited powers. And then you have the additional protections of the Bill of Rights to protect you. And so that's why I think all of us revere his work and why he's kind of the most important man, arguably of the millennium. He had some quotes, and we already have a Jefferson quote, so maybe this is duplicative, but he has one I always take with the Tea Party groups. He said, Mr. Jefferson, "When angry, count to 10 before you speak. If very angry, count to 100. Well, I think most of us have counted to 100. We're still angry. So, what I want to do is talk about how we ended up with this constitutional amendment, what the issue was, and it really relates back to the Constitution itself. So this is obviously the Constitution. Most of us have one of these nearby. Your property rights are protected by the Fifth Amendment, and it's as clear as it could be. It says, "Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation." For public use and with just compensation. And for 2 centuries, everybody knew what public use meant. Public use meant the public could use it. This is not, there are complicated parts of the Constitution. This is not one of them. It's a road you can drive on. It's a school, your kids can go to it. There's a police station. These are public uses. And what happened was there was a series of Supreme Court cases culminating in the Kelo decision where they switched public use to public purpose. And that sounds like a very technical lawyer's problem. Use, purpose, use, purpose. It's not. Public use means you can use it. Public purpose means whatever the politicians want it to mean. And so in the Kelo case itself, what they came up with was it'll increase tax revenues, it'll mean more jobs. Let's just take Horst Suzette Kelo's house and give it to Pfizer. And they did. And everybody thought that that case would never be, this is finally the instance it was too far, it'll never come back. And instead the Supreme Court said that's okay. That's a public purpose. And ever since then, some of us in the General Assembly have been trying to give you back the rights you thought you already had. And that's what the Constitutional Amendment's about. In 07, we tried in 06, we actually had a bad bill in 06. Thank God it was killed. It would have ruined everything. We were able to kill it. 07, we got the law changed. We tried to get it in the Constitution. My amendment failed. Tried again in 09, failed. Tried again in 10, failed. Tried in 2011, Johnny Joanno, who's a Democrat from Portsmouth, very bravely decided to take this on and help us. And he's the hero of this, because without him, I'm not sure we ever would have passed it. It got to the Senate where they'd always killed it. It got out by 1 vote. Now, to get an amendment to pass, it has to pass 2 years in a row. So the first, even then, we weren't really sure this was going to work. We passed it by 1 vote the first time. We say, uh-oh, they'll find somebody to kill it in committee. Amazingly, it came out the second time by 4 votes. And then it's got to come to you all. The way it works is we pass it twice the exact same way, which is what Waverly was talking about. You can't change 1 word, 1 comma, 1 anything. And then it comes to you all, and you get just an up-down vote. And if you pass it, it'll be part of the Constitution. If it fails, you'll never see it again. We have traded votes, arranged committees. We had to get the Senate, the governor, the House, all going in the same direction. Really made some big sort of bargains to get this out to you. It'll never come out again. So please, I'm begging you, do everything you can to get this over this time. Let me tell you what it does. It, number 1, says public use. You just cannot take it if it's not for public use. Not public purpose, not all public use, which was never in the Virginia Constitution. Not that way. Number 2, you can't take more than you need. It sounds obvious, but in fact, there was a case in Hampton where they took more than they needed, and then instead of giving it back, they built that Bass Pro Shop on top with a 99-year lease. And so they basically were able to keep the property and give it from Mr. Ottafaro, whose property it was. There's a lawyer here who's going to correct me. Usually, there's no one here who knows more than I do. This time I'm wrong. Jeremy is the lawyer who knows everything. Do I have it basically right? You're correct. Okay. Can't take more than you need. The third thing is that the government has to prove it. Now, this sounds like lawyer talk again, but it's not. Right now, you have to prove it otherwise. Now the government will have to prove that it's public use. And the fourth thing is we're going to make it much closer to real value. Because right now, the compensation is not complete. It encourages these things, because why do they go to all this trouble? Why does the government take it from one person and give it to another when they can just buy it? Because they don't get paid the going rate. Right now, you're going to hear from Mr. Wilson in a second, but in addition to not being able to take his property, they're not giving him what it's worth. It's cheaper for the developer to go through government to get them to take it and pay eminent domain than to pay the going rate. So the fourth thing is it fixes that issue. Now, I have a second half of the speech most of the time where I tell people what the real problem is, how this is not some ridiculous, airy-fairy concern we've come up with. You're going to hear from Mr. Wilson, and I've been using this all over the state. Norfolk has told us since 2007 this is not a real problem. We're making it up. This is something conservatives get to get themselves riled up, but it never happens. Don't mess with the Constitution. They lied. They were doing it. This wasn't Bristol that was doing this. This wasn't Roanoke. Far away. Roanoke did it too. It was Norfolk. The very time they were saying this, there was no problem and no one was doing it, they were actually doing it. The very minute Mr. Wilson and his property, and I'll let him speak to the reasons why they wanted to take his property, not for a road, not for a school, not for a police station, but for a university village and a movie theater. It's obscene. It's absolutely obscene. So, that's what the amendment is. Presumably, if you're sitting here, you're probably already very sympathetic to the idea that property rights are property rights. I beg you to do everything you can to get it passed. The local Republican units are lining up behind it. That's actually pretty easy. We're getting some traction with local governments. We're up to 5. Albemarle, Hanover, Spotsylvania, Goochland, and just recently Prince William County have all endorsed the amendment and said all those local government groups against it don't speak for us. You can do a letter to the editor. There's still time. And then last, we are passing this petition. We're only doing this for another month. We send out messages and ideas on what you can do. So if you are interested in this issue, we just want your name and your email is the most important part. Sign it up and we'll send you information as it comes out.
I want to introduce, it is my pleasure and privilege to have Mr. Bob Wilson from Central Radio. He is one of the attorneys from Waldo and Lyle that this gentleman has had to use his private funds to pay to help protect his property rights. And if you're not familiar, Waldo and Lyle are very good at helping people protect their property rights. So if you have that issue, they're the ones to call. But anyway, thank you both for coming. Thank you. It's all yours.
Thank you folks for allowing me the opportunity to come out and talk to you tonight. First thing I'd like to tell you is I'm not a professional speaker and I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman, and I will try not to butcher the English language too badly tonight. Representative Bell has told you the fine points of the new property amendment, constitutional amendment here. I'd like to give you a finer point to it and a more personal touch as to why this is so very important and why it's a winning situation for every Virginian, regardless of his political ties. It doesn't matter what party you represent or like. This is a win-win for every Virginian out there. It's very important that we pass it. I'm a businessman in the city of Norfolk. My family has lived in the city of Norfolk for over 100 years. The company that I own with my partner is 78 years old, and we're a defense contracting firm. We do work for the U.S. government, primarily for the Navy, and we're very proud of what we do. We're part of probably one of the oldest and proudest industries in this country. We're members of the American shipbuilding industry, and that's something that makes us very proud, along with the type of work that we do. We contribute something we feel like to our nation's defense, we contribute something to our state, and we contribute something to Norfolk. Norfolk, approximately 15 years ago, sent us a letter. They told us that they would like us to attend a meeting to see what we thought as business people about how we could upgrade the area that we were in. We went naively to this meeting, and we were there. I don't want to draw parallels, but it was very close to being 1934 Germany as far as we were concerned. We walked in there. They told us that we were going to be acquired. They gave us a map of our area, and it was in colored areas that showed us we were going to be acquired within 1 year, 5 years, 7 years. It wasn't a question of what we wanted to do, what we thought, or anything else. The only question in mind was whether we would accept the terms of their buyout of us, or whether we be acquired through a process known as eminent domain. I've got to be honest with you folks, I'd never heard of eminent domain before that. I had no idea what I was facing at that point. Eminent domain, as most of you already know, is a process of taking property when it's needed for public use. Public use. That means a highway, a school, a library, something that benefits everybody out there. And it should only be done in cases of absolute dire need. It shouldn't be a whim of anybody else. We were told that this is the process that they were going to do. We were within the 5-year category of being acquired. 5 years, that's a long time to sit when your property, and you can't sell it. You can't move that property in 5 years. You're under a death sentence, basically. So you've got to sit there and keep it for 5 years. 5 years came and went. Nothing from the offer. 10 years came and went. Nothing. 12 years. At the 12-year level, they sent us an offer in the mail. It was ridiculous. We, of course, told them we don't want to sell. Plain and simple. We do not want to sell. We were established in our location, and we've been in that location for 50 years. And the reason we were there, because our two customer bases were equally divided between that. We had contractual obligations that demanded response times. So we didn't want to sell at any price. It didn't matter what it was. They told us that didn't matter either, and they did not care. We went on. We are now in the process. We fought through the court battles in here, and they determined that this is going to be an economic development take, as per the Kelo decision by the Supreme Court. They don't know what they want to do with us, folks. That's the bad thing. They have no design for us. They admitted they'll have to take a survey to decide what they want. Unfortunately true. We've tried very hard to work with ODU, who is going to be the recipient of our property eventually, to partner with them. We're an engineering firm. We've offered to mentor their engineers, their graduate engineers, turn them into better engineers. They're not interested. They're not interested. We have over 100 employees that make a pretty good living. They're able to buy homes, take vacations. Their children go to school in Norfolk. They pay taxes in Norfolk.
They're good neighbors.
And we believe that we are good corporate citizens. We have been. We pay our taxes, unlike some of our city councilmen. We don't feel like we've done anything to justify it. We're trying to build a future for our children. My family started this company in 1934. I am the second generation. The third generation is already working. I started working in this business when I was 12 years old. As soon as I could legally get a work permit, my parents had a work ethic, and that was all their children were going to work, one way or the other. My sister has worked in the business. My daughter has worked in the business. We've got grandchildren on the way, so the fourth generation is coming too. This is our legacy to our children and our employees and their families. We want to pass this on. We're not being given a choice, and we're fighting it. However, in 2007, the legislature in Virginia passed a very important law at that point that said that they could no longer use economic development as a take due to the Kelo decision. They carved out a twilight clause for ODU to finish their acquisition of the properties that they had. They gave them a cutoff date, which was July 1st, I believe, Jeremy, of 2010. The wording in the law said that they had to acquire the property. And I've looked up acquire in every dictionary that I can come up with, and it still comes up with the same definition. It means to have or to hold. It doesn't mean to have filed the paperwork or whatever else. The court system said, no, that's all right. ODU was thinking about taking you, or NRHA was thinking about taking you, and they filed the paperwork. That's why, in essence, this constitutional amendment is so important to us. Laws can be interpreted by judges. They can be lobbied by parties that have an interest in there. They can be changed. a constitutional amendment's not going to be able to be changed. When we talk about this down on here, this protects every one of us, every one of us. This would not be happening to Central Radio today if we had had this constitutional amendment. The fact that it would have had to have been a public take on that. We would have had to be compensated fairly for that take. Any inconvenience, any loss of business, we would have been compensated for. That would have all been considered. And it would have been considered to us. Now, as it stands now, all the government has to do is come in and say, this is a public take. It's not questioned by the court at all. No one even wants to know whether it is or not. It's up to you. It is the old classic case of you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And that's not what this country's about, folks. Our constitutional amendments are all, our Bill of Rights, are all tied together. You start eroding one, and you're eroding every single one of them beyond that, from the first on down. Our founding fathers said that private property should not be taken except in an the House Judiciary Committee has sent H.R. 1433 to the floor. And what H.R. 1433 says is that no government, state or municipal, can take property from an individual to give to another individual. Now, this is the federal government saying it. Our amendment goes much further than that. I mean, we go into much more depth. It's much better for us. But if the federal government is now recognizing that Kelo was a bad decision and they're doing something about it, we need to do something here in Virginia to protect all Virginians, not just a select group. We need to get out and convince our neighbors, our friends, the people we work for that don't understand what this amendment stands for and how important it is to us. We've got to convince them that they need to vote yes on question number 1.